How many times have I been kept from recognizing what God was doing right in front of me? How many times have I been kept from recognizing ordinary moments of joy because I was waiting on things to be perfect? How many times have I missed a miracle because all I saw was the mess? How many times have I missed the opportunity to give something because I was so centered on myself, how I feel, what I need, what I didn't get? And God said, if you'll change the question and reverse the search, maybe it's not about what is happening to you. Maybe it's what I want to do through you. They hung him high. He didn't come down because he had something to do. They didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize that my kids were growing up fast, so I didn't make the time. I didn't recognize the good things about the person I said I'd spend the rest of my life with, so I started focusing on the things about them that were mildly annoying, and eventually it became an insurmountable resentment. I didn't recognize that the people I was hanging out with were doing some things that were going to stick with me for the rest of my life, and it became an addiction, even though it just started out as an attraction. I didn't recognize. And they were kept. What kept them from recognizing? You can be kept from recognizing the patterns that created your outcomes. You can be kept from recognizing the behaviors that are leading you to the destinations that you hate. You know you hate where you are, but you don't know how you got there. And they were kept from recognizing him. And he was right there with them. Like that dude who prayed God would save him, and the helicopter came and he didn't take the helicopter. You know this story. Boat came, he wouldn't get in the boat. He drowned and he died, and he said, God, I asked you to save me. And God said, that helicopter was me. That boat was me. That rejection was me. Yeah. Even that pain, I let it happen because I wanted to produce a power in your life, and the only way I could get it through. And open your eyes. And they're walking. And here comes Jesus, like a stalker. Come on, it's kind of weird, right? He just shows up in the middle of them, Cleo and Mrs. Cleo, and he asks them a question. Just sit right down beside him in church, walk up on the road, and I love Jesus. This is comical to me. If you think the Bible is boring, I want to challenge the fact that maybe it's you that is boring. Because watch this. This is some funny stuff. The author of life, who knows all things, who lays bare the intents of every heart, who created Cleo and Mrs. Cleo before the foundations of the earth for an express purpose, by whom and through whom and for whom all things are created. That Jesus, the Word made flesh, full of grace and truth, walks up to Cleo and says, what y'all talking about? Like he doesn't know. And they stood still, their faces down. Everything in this text seems backwards to me, y'all. He's going toward Emmaus, away from Jerusalem. That doesn't make sense. He's talking to people that don't seem important. That doesn't make sense. He just got up from the dead. If you just got up from the dead, would you want to hang around happy people? I would want to find somebody who could celebrate. Come on, we're going to pop something. But Cleo is sad because it didn't go the way he thought. It didn't end up the way he thought. Their faces were downcast, and all of a sudden they stopped walking. The Bible says they stood still, their faces downcast. And they stopped. And apparently Jesus stops with them. And they're sad. And apparently he enters into their sadness. And they start explaining to the one who created life how life was supposed to turn out. I love the Bible. I'm fascinated by this journey. See, if you read the Bible like a magic rule book, you will never fully understand the extent to which it is meant to speak to your situation and guide your life. See, I'm gonna show you how God is not scared to walk right up in the details of your situation. A bird falls out the sky and he counts it and puts it on the ledger, and you think he doesn't know about your loneliness, your tears, your heartbreak, your question. You think he's intimidated by your skepticism. You think your broken heart can chase him away. The Bible says a broken and a contrite heart he will not despise. The only heart he can't get into is the one that is closed up through pride. But if you open yourself, even with your face downcast, and Cleo said, hey man, are you, this is ironic, huh? The host of heaven has come to earth. He died and rose again, lived a perfect life. And Cleo says, are you the only one visiting Jerusalem? Remember, he made it. And they're treating the God of the world like a guest. It's so funny to me how we get it twisted, how we get it out of order. We start thinking that God needs to consult our blueprint of how our lives need to be built. I can get this way as a pastor, telling God what he needs to do in my church. You get this way as a parent, what God needs to do with your children. Cleo launches out on this Cleopas launches out on this long speech telling Jesus what happened to Jesus. You find the God has a sense of humor because he lets him talk. Cleopas gives him his speech and Jesus lets him finish. Are you the only one who doesn't know what happened? The one it happened to is standing there, and Cleo wants to tell him what happened. See, what had happened was Jesus of Nazareth was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. They are standing before the great I am, and they start with he was. And there he is. And they're stuck in he was. Are you missing what is because you're stuck in what was? We hoped he was the one, but it took a turn for the worse. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. Jesus is nodding. Verse 21, tell me all about it. But we had hope, and had I been Jesus, I'd have stopped you right there, because hope that is seen is not hope at all. And if you had hoped and don't hope anymore, what you had wasn't real hope, because real hope can hold on even on Friday. I had hoped it'd be over by now. I had hoped the medicine would fix it. I had hoped they'd say yes. I hoped they had asked. I had hoped. Hope is standing in front of hopelessness. Christ and Cleo and the cross clashed with Cleo's expectation, and now his experience has left him downcast. We had hoped that he was the one. I thought I'd be further along by now. Thought I'd be married by 26. I hoped they would be good to me and pay me back and appreciate me after all I did for them. I had hoped he was going to redeem me. I had hoped he was going to heal me. Could it be that we miss God because we look for him in the dreams, but he is found in the disappointment? Their faces were downcast. Their hopes were dashed. And from their standpoint, the story was over. Since I'm your tour guide on this 7-mile journey, let me give you a professional travel tip. Don't judge the journey before it's over. I don't know who that was even for. Don't judge the journey of 7 miles when you hadn't even been 2 yet. see what the end will be. See what the end will be. If you trust his promise, you have to trust the path. And it might be winding, and it might lead to a cross, and it might not feel good, and it might be confusing. But he is the God of the detour. And it might not be spectacular, and he might not prove himself to you with signs that you can see or sense or feel, and it might not be a goosebump that proves his presence. He might show up in the details, the little things. It might be in the little ways. He's right there on the road. He's walking with them. They almost can't recognize him because it's so common. What's happening is so common. He looks like just another guy. They are standing next to resurrection and they don't recognize it, and it's right there. He's right there. He is here now. He is. He was. He is to come, and he's with you in this moment. Hoped he was the one. And what is more, Cleo says, to make matters worse, look at 21, it's the third day. It's funny, y'all don't know that's funny. I'm sorry, I'm just a nerdy little pastor. I get kicks out of weird stuff. It's the third day. The whole time he was on the earth, he said, this is gonna go bad on Friday, but come Sunday, don't look for me in the tomb they buried me in. I'm getting up out of here. And what they thought was the dead end was really just the beginning. Amen. You want to see him in 3D? Look for him in the detours. You want to see him in 3D, not this flat little coloring book Jesus with a lamb on his lap, but the living, risen Son of God, under whose all feet things still sit and standing strong, seated at the right hand of God. You want to see him like that? Don't look for him in just the dramatic. Look for him in the details. That little thing that God has been doing in your life. You want to see the Son of God? You want to see Jesus? How many of you want to see him? How many of you want to see God active in your life? I mean, with the eyes of your heart to know him. He can be found at the dead ends when you used to hope, and now it's hard to hope. That's where he meets you on your Emmaus road.
Hey, thanks for watching. Click the subscribe button on your screen so you never miss a video. And would you also take a second and share this video with a friend? If you click the arrow below that says share, maybe you can encourage somebody today, your coworker, your mom, whoever. You never know how it might impact their life. Thanks again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and share.